The St. Paul City Council will come to order. Roll call.
Tolbert, Busuri, Jadali Nelson, Naker, Prince, Tao, Council President Bren Moen. 7 present, no one absent.
Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent agenda items 3 through 11 are before you for your consideration.
And does anything need to be taken separately from consent? Seeing none, Mr. Tao moves approval of the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails. 7
in favor, no one opposed. The consent agenda is adopted. Item number 12, resolution public hearing 19-377, setting the recycling service fee for 2020 and authorizing Public Works to request $840,830 in SCORE grant funds from Ramsey County to support the curbside recycling program under contract with Eureka Recycling. Public hearing was held on November 6th.
So this, we've held and closed the public hearing.
Yes.
So this is for us, before us for final discussion. Any thoughts on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Tolbert moves approval. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 13, resolution public hearing 19-378, setting the solid waste service fee portion of the recycling and solid waste service fee for 2020. Public hearing was held on November 6th.
Any final discussion on this item? Seeing none, Ms. Jalali moves approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 14, resolution public hearing 19-359, setting the 2020 sanitary sewer and storm sewer rates. Public hearing was held on November 6th.
All right, setting the sanitary sewer and storm sewer rates. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Ms. Prince moves approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 15, resolution public hearing 19-354, establishing the water charges for 2020. Public hearing was held on November 6th.
Any further discussion on water charges? Seeing none, Mr. Tolbert moves approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 16, resolution 19-2131, approving the St. Paul Regional Water Services 2020 budget.
Any further discussion on the St. Paul Regional Water Services budget? Seeing none, Ms. Naker moves approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone else in approval? Any opposition? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 17, resolution 19-2115, approving the St. Paul River Center Convention and Visitors Authority 2020 budget.
And this is the RCVA budget. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Ms. Naker moves approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted.
The City Council will be in recess.
The Library Board meeting is called to order. Roll call.
Bren Moen, Busuri, Jadali Nelson, Naker, Tao, Tolbert, Chair Prince. 7 present, no one absent. Resolution 19-2106, adopting 2020 budget and requesting property tax financing.
Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, Board Member Busuri moves to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is adopted.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted.
Board Member Naker moves to adjourn. The Library Board meeting is adjourned.
St. Paul City Council is back in order. Roll call.
Tolbert, Busuri, Jolly Nelson, Naker, Prince, Tao, Council President Bren Moen. 7 present, no one absent. Item number 18, resolution 19-2108, approving and adopting the St. Paul Public Library Agency budget.
Any final discussion on the library budget? Seeing none, Ms. Prince moves approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 19, resolution 19-2126.
We just discussed this item at the HRA. Is there any further discussion on item 19, the HRA authority budget and property tax levy? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call.
Tolbert.
Yes.
Busuri.
Yes.
Jalali Nelson.
Yes.
Naker.
Yes.
Prince.
No.
Tao.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, aye.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Council President Brenmoen.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed, being Councilmember Prince. The resolution is adopted. Item number 20, Resolution 19-2130, approving the 2020 city tax levy.
And I think before we vote on that, we have the tax levy and then the 2020 budget. And if we could just get Ms. Earl or Mr. McCarthy to come up and give us the final numbers on the levy, that would be appreciated. Welcome.
Thank you. Council President Brenmoen, Council Members, Susan Earl, Office of Financial Services. The last two resolutions you have before you adopt the city budget and the city property tax levy for 2020. The levy number that you have in front of you is a 5.85% increase versus 2019, and that's $165,181,611. That's for that's all combined, so that includes the city, the library, the debt, and the levy on behalf of the St. Paul Port Authority.
All right, thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Earl? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So before us is the 2020 city tax levy. Is there final discussion on this part of the budget vote? We'll also talk again on the budget. It's hard to know. All right. So if there is no discussion on the city tax levy, we'll again do a roll call. All in favor, or roll call?
Tolbert.
Yes.
Busuri.
Yes.
Jalali Nelson.
Yes.
Naker.
Yes.
Prince.
No.
Tao.
No.
Council President Brenmoen.
Yes.
5 in favor, 2 opposed, being Councilmembers Prince and Tao. The resolution
I'm
is
gonna
adopted.
change my vote to no on this one, sorry.
Okay. 4 in favor, 3 opposed, being Council Members Busuri, Prince, and Tao. The resolution is adopted. Item number 21, Resolution 19-2139, adopting the 2020 budget.
And I know that Ms. Houston is available for questions. This is, again, when we come down to voting for the actual budget, it is a week after we have the truth and taxation hearing and after many public hearings around this item, and it often feels anticlimactic when we just simply vote on an over $600 million budget. If people have questions on the final 2020 budget for Ms. Houston, we can have a presentation from her. Otherwise, we can open up discussion on adopting the 2020 budget. No questions for Ms. Houston? All right. Are there any comments on the 2020 budget? Ms. Jalali.
I'd just like to acknowledge that we really took a lot of steps this year to open up our budget process, to have more community input on the front end, to lift up what we heard in last year's budget, and to really push for some priorities in what ended up being a tougher budget year. So I just want to personally lift up something that I think is really important as we look at kind of the new challenges, or challenges that have always faced our city but have risen anew recently around public safety. Last year, we had a very emotional budget conversation centered on police staffing and what else we were going to do to impact public safety. And this year, we're moving a really significant step forward toward taking on a holistic approach to addressing gun violence and addressing safety beyond policing by funding initiatives that we're trying to scale up to support youth and support alternatives to police in our community, as well as the rightful conversations that should keep happening about staffing. So I want to mark that progress. Mark wins that advocates have brought forward, like the concept of a community cabinet. I'm committed to working toward more funding for more community organizations in this direction in the coming year. And I want to just state that commitment publicly. It's something that I think is incredibly important. I know I'm not the only one who really feels that way. I think that the structures we're investing in this year will help us deepen our partnerships with community to get there. So I just want to note the progress that's been made. I agree that it can feel anticlimactic to just come here after what feels like 1,000 hours of conversations to vote yes or no. But I'm voting yes for all the progress we've made and to keep building on it. So thanks everybody who's been a part of those discussions. I think they have to continue, and I'm feeling good about where we're at today.
Great. Other thoughts? Ms. Prince?
Yeah, and bear with me because this is lengthy. I have wrestled with this budget and all of its moving pieces in an effort to be able to support it. On September 25th, we passed a maximum levy of 4.85 and a trash contingency of 17.4%, which was not a cushion or a slush fund. I voted against the premise that losing the referendum would require us to charge all taxpayers for it. I said then that taxpayers had not given us a blank check and that we needed to get back to budgeting adequately for the basics. When our city was overtaken by serious gun violence, I shared the mayor's and my colleagues' sense of urgency that we needed to take a hard look at shifting our priorities to deal with violence and its root causes. Unfortunately, that process and its proposed solution, though well-intentioned, was not generated from a partnership of all of our city's leaders. An editorial in yesterday's Pioneer Press confirmed my strong sense that while we have lots of the right pieces in the mayor's supplemental budget, it lacks the logic and cohesion to properly, effectively, and equitably address the problems we face. It doesn't represent a strong partnership between the administration and the chief of police. In particular, I need to raise the exchange I had with the mayor at our November 20th meeting. I said what we all know, that the number of sworn officers at 6:35 or 6:30 is a meaningless fiction. What is reality in our city is that our police force throughout the year of officers deployable on the street, including the chief himself, numbers about 570. For reasons I don't understand, our city has not adequately funded the St. Paul Police Department's ability to address normal attrition in the form of retirement, PTSD, medical, and military leaves, leaving us severely short of officers throughout the year, and most dramatically over the summer months when the needs are highest. During that exchange, the mayor stated that the same problem of attrition had been addressed within the fire department, and the same fix could be applied to the St. Paul Police Department. But while the fire department had its sworn strength upgraded by about 20 firefighters this fall in the 2020 budget, this matter was left unaddressed for the St. Paul Police Department. Since the spike in gun violence in my ward, which has suffered significant numbers of homicides, gun violence, and shots fired, many serious and ongoing safety needs are not being addressed. The force unit, for example, that deals with problem properties, drugs, and criminal behaviors that tear apart neighborhoods, has been redeployed to homicide investigations. 911 response times. We all know that 911 response times are way up, and they're worse than ever. Some weeks back, the Santa Foundation called 911 to stop a fight that broke out between groups of kids in front of the rec center. It was 90 minutes before the police arrived, putting staff and young people all at serious risk of injury and escalating violence. We have 570 officers who are deployable. Who are we kidding about violence intervention? I will vote no on this budget because it does not cover the basics and it funds extras that my ward cannot afford. When the trash referendum failed, it wasn't for us to say, look at all this new taxing capacity we have. It was our job to go back to 4.85 that we would have had without it and make some tough decisions. And not only did we not do that, but the administration found $5 million from the sale of an HRA asset that it added to the budget for a host of new one-time expenditures in the 2020 budget. It is my job to listen and represent my constituents. The way that the administration and this council has come to today's final budget does not represent the hard decisions and tough choices that my constituents expect me to make. So I will be voting no. Thank you.
Ms. Naker.
Thank you. I I want to thank all of my colleagues around the table, first of all. I really think we have had honest and civil disagreements during this process. This is an important conversation that we're having. We disagree. That's okay, and we're having those conversations publicly. And I think that's really healthy, and I'm proud of the way that we have been doing this work, even when we haven't agreed in this process. I am pleased with both the outcome and the process that we've gone through for this 2020 budget. And I want to thank people who are here today for the anticlimactic day. You were here last week and you came back. That's great. And also people have reached out to me throughout this process. I am especially pleased that the work we did resulted in restoring funding for some really critical programs that I know we were all concerned about when we saw the original budget. I'm talking about free rec check programming, full library funding, street maintenance and pedestrian safety, a holistic public safety agenda, as Councilmember Jalali mentioned, and fully staffing our labor standards division and funding contracts with community organizations so that we can educate and enforce our Earn Sick and Safe Time and our minimum wage ordinance. Those are critical investments at a time when families in our community are struggling, and I'm really glad that we were able to find it in our budget to get those programs restored. I also just want to say a word to those of my constituents who have reached out to me to express concern about the level of taxation in St. Paul. I want you to know that I have taken those concerns extremely seriously. One of my goals throughout this process has been to keep the levy as low as possible while also funding the programs and the people that we need to keep our city strong and equitable. There are over $4.5 million of cuts and streamlining in this budget, and it is the lowest levy increase we've seen since 2016. It's also, the increase is well below the amount of tax base growth that we've seen over the last year. So we are not even quite capturing the tax base growth with our levy increase. But these are really hard times for cities. Our needs and our costs are expanding much faster than inflation. And we receive fully $59 million fewer dollars from the state and local government aid than we should. So in times like that, despite our best efforts, my best efforts, I know many of us around this table, I was not able to find enough efficiencies in streamlining in order to not have a levy increase this year. And I want to acknowledge that this will result in a tax increase and that may be a burden for some of my constituents. I also heard from a number of folks that no matter what the tax rate, people really wanted us to be investing in programs that worked, not just putting money in places where we weren't sure what was going to happen as a result of it. That's why I'm really glad that we are investing in programs that have demonstrated results, such as the Cure Violence Model and the Community Ambassadors Program. And in the cases where we are trying new things, like our Returning Home program and our community health workers, we are specifically funding those out of one-time dollars, so that at the end of this year, we're holding ourselves accountable to make sure those programs showed results before we decide whether or not to re-up their funding. And finally, I just want to mention, because I think this sometimes is a little bit distorted in the process, the only items that we talk about during our budget process are the items that are changing from year to year. The bulk of our investments are staying the same. And if we only talk about what's changing, it really gives a distorted view of what we're investing in. So for example, the more than $40 million we spend each year on our roads, or the more than $170 million we spend on public safety hasn't been discussed very much, because those are continued spending that is going to continue in 2020 from 2019. But I think it's important to talk about those because those are important basic needs on which our city depends and on which we are investing. So I am looking forward to supporting this budget, and more importantly, I'm really excited about the work that is ahead of us that this budget is going to support for our community.
Thank you. Anyone else on this budget? Mr. Tao.
Thank you. I'll not be supporting this budget. Overall, I think it's a good budget. I think we have addressed a lot of issue from public safety to new initiative in the financial empowerment department and public safety. But I think that the way of government, and from the conversation I've had with the people in my ward, is that tax is too high. Especially for seniors who are fixed income, low income worker, and property owners, and the property tax continue to rise. And so the way of, I think government should work is that we shouldn't overburden the community with taxes. And we've been increasing our tax ever since, I was mentioned here, 2016. And this year was a year that we could could have done something good to the residents of St. Paul. With the sale of the 7th Street corner parking lot, we got $5 million. We could have used some of that $5 million to bring the levy down 0.5% this year and reward the property tax owner and the residents, the people that have been paying tax over the year, and to keep this budget low. But we didn't do that. In fact, we squirrel money away that we don't know if it's going to be used for those or not. On paper, it looks really good, but I think that we miss an opportunity here to really give the resident a break, and so I'll be voting no for this.
Great. Anyone else? Okay. Well, I guess I would just close by saying we've made an effort in the past 2 years, as some of my colleagues have mentioned, to take our budget a bit differently than we have in the past and be engaged on the front end so that when the budget is presented to us, it reflects the values and priorities of the council. And I appreciate and want to acknowledge the mayor and the mayor's office for working with us as we've really changed our process. And I want to thank all of my colleagues for showing up week after week after week to policy meetings, to org committee meetings, where we established our priorities and established our goals and defined what we wanted to see in these budgets. It is a lot of work to muddle through all the material that comes in front of us, and so I do want to acknowledge the time. When I look back at the fair housing task force, which we established, we worked together to define a path forward for a better housing program in the city, and we have seen the fruits of that work with the Fair Housing Plan led by HRA Chair Tolbert coming to us week after week, showing the strides that we've made, and the funding that we see in our budget reflects that as well. As Ms. Jalali mentioned, last year we heard loud and clear that community first public safety was a priority, and I think we're seeing those things reflected in our budget as well. And no matter how much effort we put on the front end and how much we work on defining policies in the middle, at the end we always come down to the last $100,000 that end up getting probably an undue amount of attention, given that our budget is $610 million, but all of it, as you can tell, matters to us because here we are minutes before passing the budget and we're still grappling over those last dollars and cents. So it's been an intense process, a serious process, and I want to acknowledge the work of the council. I want to acknowledge the work of Ms. Houston, our Chief Budget Officer, who has worked really hard to keep us all in the loop and communicate changes as they've happened in a very unusual budget year where we had, unanswered questions up until the time of the election and then a very short time window to make changes. And she's done yeoman's work, and I appreciate and acknowledge that. Ms. Earl, Mr. McCarthy, and the Finance Department and the whole team that you have working with you deserve acknowledgement as well. We appreciate the collaborative manner in which you've worked with us, so thank you for that. So I am going to vote in support of this. I think it is a good budget. I think it's a strong budget. I think that we have our work cut out for us in 2020 for a 2021 budget from the conversation we just had about funding our community groups that are on the ground doing the work to really tackling the police staffing issue and have a data-driven conversation about that, as well as continuing to move forward with our other priorities, including obviously our housing, which needs to continue to move forward, and our homelessness problem, among many things. So as we close the books on 2019 and look forward to 2020 and the conversations, we'll have about a week to take a breath, and then we'll be back at it again. So I just want to acknowledge and appreciate the work of all those who have helped bring the budget to this point. Mr. Tolbert.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, and I truly appreciate that Councilmember Naker pointed out much of this budget is stuff that the vital services that the city is doing now and currently will continue to do, because we fund really important things, and I think that's what our constituents matter to them, whether it's the libraries, the rec centers, police, fire, the public safety. But I also want to take a moment to thank Council President Brenmoen. Putting together a budget is very difficult. It's hard because we have a very limited resource generally with property taxes, and we try and balance that with the services that people want, demand, and need, quite frankly. And it's almost like being a carpenter to try and put one of these together. And it's hard to do, to build a budget sometimes it's easy to be against things or force things, but to put a budget together that funds those services and balances those two things is really difficult. And I think you've done a great job of threading that needle. So thank you for your leadership on this. I think we have a budget that's going to improve St. Paul and make our neighborhood and the lives of people better. So thank you for putting this together.
Thank you. Anything further before we move to a vote? All right. We will move forward. Ms. Naker moves approval. Roll call.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Busari,
No.
Jolly Nelson,
Yes.
Naker,
Yes.
Prince,
No.
Tao,
No.
Council President Brenmoen.
Yes.
4 in favor, 3 opposed, those being Council Members Busuri, Prince, and Tao. The resolution is adopted.
And this is where we wish we had glitter to fall into the chamber so we could celebrate a very momentous vote. So, as Ms. Naker said, thanks to the advocates for being back here today for the anticlimactic vote. It's very important, and we know how much effort you put into this budget as well, so thank you. So much gratitude.
Item number 22, final adoption of ordinance 19-71, amending chapter 24.03 of the Administrative Code related to financial disclosure requirements.
All right, so this is before us for, this is before us for final adoption. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Tolbert moves approval. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The ordinance is adopted. Item number 23, second reading of ordinance 19-72, amending chapters 65 and 66 of the Legislative Code pertaining to hotel, motel, and inn. This ordinance is laid over to December 18th for third reading public hearing. Item number 24, second reading of ordinance 19-73, granting the application of Blackstone One LLC to rezone property at Inglewood Avenue from R4 Single Family Residential to RT2 Townhouse Residential, and amending Chapter 60 of the Legislative Code pertaining to the zoning map. This ordinance is laid over to December 18th for third reading public hearing. Item number 25. Second reading of ordinance 19-74, amending chapter 2.02 of the Administrative Code by creating the Office of Financial Empowerment. This ordinance is laid over to December 18th for third reading public hearing. Item number 26, second reading of ordinance 19-75, amending chapter 33 of the Legislative Code pertaining to establishment of permit fees, certificate of compliance, and fence requirements. This ordinance is laid over to December 18th for third reading public hearing. Item number 27, second reading of ordinance 19-78, amending chapter 310 of the Legislative Code pertaining to uniform license procedures as it relates to the license fee schedule.
And there is a version 2 in Legistar that is a technical change. It essentially just holds harmless fee increase on animal keeping, but I think that you're pulling out that one section. Is there any discussion on the version 2 technical amendment? Seeing none, I move approval. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The amendment is approved and the ordinance is laid over to December 18th for third reading public hearing. Item number 28, first reading of ordinance 19-76, amending chapter 199 of the Legislative Code pertaining to rabies control. This ordinance is laid over to December 18th for second reading. Item number 29, first reading of ordinance 19-77, amending chapter 200 of the Legislative Code, updating and adding definitions, making owners of impounded animals responsible for veterinary, rabies, and microchipping fees required before release, and prohibiting the release of impounded animals without appropriate restraint. This ordinance is laid over to December 18th for second reading. Item number 30, resolution public hearing 19-373, amending the general government accounts grant budget by $8,000 to cover 2014 flood-related parks expense on Lilydale Bridge, an expense which will be reimbursed by FEMA and Minnesota Department of Public Safety.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? Seeing none, Ms. Naker moves to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 31, Resolution Public Hearing 19-404, amending the financing and spending plans in the Fire Department for the Minnesota Task Force 1 Team reimbursement from the City of Edina in the amount of $21,132.19.
And once again, we'll gladly take their money. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? Seeing none, Ms. Jalali moves to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Legislative hearing consent agenda items 32 through 39 are before you for your consideration.
And good afternoon, Ms. Mormond.
Good afternoon, council members. I am not aware of anyone here to testify on a legislative hearing item.
All right. Seeing that could be the case, we will take items 32 through 39. If you are here for any item between 32 and 39, this is a public hearing. All right, seeing none, Mr. Tao moves the legislative hearing consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the consent agenda is adopted as amended.
I would move suspension of the rules. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
Declaring December 11th, 2019, Donna Mae Sanders Day.
Well, thank you for letting me take this in under suspension. We are going to celebrate the retirement of my executive assistant, Donna Sanders, over at the St. Paul Grill in just a few minutes here. But I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to at least read into the camera this wonderful resolution celebrating your time in the city of St. Paul. And I promise I'm going to put you on the spot and make you testify, but I do want to read this because it's pretty amazing. Donna has worked for the city of St. Paul for 41 and a half years, but she let me know today that between her dad, Alan May, and her sister, Kathy Korf, and her other sister, Patty Banaszewski, did I say that right? Combined 72 consecutive years of service for the city of St. Paul, so this is a family thing, and definitely worth celebrating. So I'm going to read the resolution to share some really special information about Donna as we send her off to retirement. So whereas Donna May was raised on Hyacinth Avenue on St. Paul's east side, and she was the 6th of 7 siblings. And whereas Donna attended Hayden Heights, Blessed Sacrament, Hazel Park, and Johnson High Schools on the east side. And whereas, like her sisters before her, Donna followed in the footsteps of her father, District Chief Alan May, who served with the St. Paul Fire Department. She began working for the city of St. Paul in the police department's records division in August of 1978. And whereas Donna's career also included years of service in the city's Department of Planning and Economic Development, City Council Research, and in the Ward 5 City Council office alongside former council members Jim Ryder and Lee Helgen, and current City Council President Amy Brunmone. And whereas she embraced each new role and boss with optimism and professionalism, and she has generously lent her vast institutional knowledge to the benefit of the city and Ward 5. And whereas Donna has earned a reputation of being patient and kind and professional, patient, kind, and professional member of the city's team, she provides excellent service to every community member, and she maintains a calm, efficient demeanor no matter how many appointments must be scheduled and rescheduled and rescheduled. And whereas during the course of her career, Donna met and married Conrad Sanders in 1983, and in 1991 they were blessed with their beautiful daughter, Hannah. And whereas Donna has always taken an interest in her colleagues, who often become her friends, and takes time to share in their joys, celebrate their milestones, and support them through challenges. And whereas Donna is an avid traveler, and she will now be able to enjoy even more adventures in her retirement, she will continue making amazing photo books about her trips, practicing the art of mandala rock painting, and spending time with Conrad, Hannah, and her siblings and many friends. And whereas Donna will be dearly missed by her coworkers and friends, which are one and the same, at the city of St. Paul, though she has decidedly more than earned her retirement. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of St. Paul thanks Donna for her hard work and loyalty for the past 41 and a half years. congratulates her on her impactful career, and wishes her the best in her retirement. And be it further resolved that the City Council declares December 11th, 2019, Donna Sanders Day in the City of St. Paul. And thank you for indulging us. You will be so missed, and we look forward to celebrating with you in a few minutes over at the St. Paul Grill. I would move approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted.
And if there is nothing else to come before us today, we're adjourned.